That is the Dragon Slayer song. The Dragon Slayer song. Wow, is it great to be here with everyone. Doesn't this feel awesome? I just sat there with Miranda and I just was sitting back saying to myself, we have such amazing people in this company. I mean, the story that each one of you could showcase, every one of you could come up here and tell your story, and we would just know how rich the company is because of who you are. That's the most amazing thing. I am going to talk today about something that I've been spending 35 years on, and that is to package in a way all of the things that we know about the soul of this company so that we can spread it further. Let me ask you this question. Wouldn't it be amazing if every one of your clients had a best version media thing going for them? I mean, if you want a 100% renewal rate, you would get it if each one of the clients that you have had the same vibe that we have as an organization. They'd never go out of business. They'd have a greater need. So we're going to kind of unpack what it means to be in BVM. Before I do that, though, I want to set this up talking a little bit about a story you might have heard. This is decades ago, but it's worth setting the stage here. And this is a letter from a person who filed a claim with an insurance company, and they needed more information in order for it to go through. And the letter says, I'm writing a response to your request for additional information in my insurance claim. On block number 3 of the accident claim form, I wrote, trying to get the job done alone as the cause of my accident. You said in your letter that you needed a further explanation, and I trust the following details will be sufficient. I'm a bricklayer by trade. On the date of the accident, I was working alone on the roof of a 6-story building. When I completed my work, I discovered that I had about 500 pounds worth of bricks left over. Rather than carrying the bricks down by hand, I decided to lower them in a barrel by using a pulley, which was attached to the side of the building at the 6th floor. Securing the rope at ground level, I went up to the roof, I swung the barrel out, I loaded the bricks into it, and then I went down to the ground level. I untied the rope, holding it tightly to ensure a slow descent of the 500 pounds of bricks. He will note in block number 22 of the claim, my weight is 150 pounds. Due to my surprise at being jerked off the ground so suddenly, I lost my presence of mind and I forgot to let go of the rope. Needless to say, I proceeded up the side of the building at a very rapid speed. In the vicinity of about the 3rd floor, I met the barrel coming down at an equally impressive pace. This explains my fractured skull and the collarbone. Slowed only slightly, I continued my rapid ascent, not stopping until the fingers of my right hand were now 2 knuckles deep into the pulley. By this time, I had regained my presence of mind and I was able to hold tightly despite of my excruciating pain. At approximately the same time, however, the barrel of bricks hit the ground and the bottom fell out of the barrel. Devoid of the weight of the bricks, the barrel weighed now approximately 50 pounds. I again refer you to my weight in section 22. As you might imagine, I began a rapid descent down the side of the building, and in the vicinity of the 3rd floor, I met the barrel coming up at an equally impressive speed. This accounts for the 2 fractured ankles and the lacerations of my legs and lower body. The secondary encounter with the barrel slowed me enough to lessen my injuries when I fell into the pile of bricks, and fortunately only 3 of my vertebrae were cracked. I'm sorry to report, however, that as I lay in the bricks, in pain, unable to stand, and watching the empty barrel 6 stories above me, I again lost my presence of mind and I let go of the rope. The empty barrel weighed more than the rope, so it proceeded down in the building at a rapid speed. So you get the point. Why do I begin with this? Doesn't that feel like life? I mean, it's just like, it's a metaphor for all of us and what we go through. So we're going to talk today. This is a 2-day seminar that I'm going to attempt to give you in approximately an hour. And it's not going to be easy to do. But we have all sorts of like tidbits and sayings throughout Best Version Media that make it great. And one of the things that I remember during the day is that I was able to do training and I could do one-on-one or, group trainings. How many people were actually trained in Milwaukee? I did the training. Was anybody in there at that time? Those were fun times. Okay. And we would really kind of highlight this reality that there are many different organizations out there that have the same resources, the exact same resources. They recruit the same types of people. They have the same products, the same services, but yet one organization does really well and another organization doesn't do so well. And all things being totally equal, the difference is if each person on one of those teams was committed to becoming the best version of themselves. There's no contest. That's it. So in these meetings, I have the luxury of being able to talk about this aspect of it, what it really means to be the best version of yourself. How do you do it strategically? See, you've got so many people out there that are showing you all the bits and bytes and the details of the business. How to do this, how to say this, how to get this done. You're paying attention to those, and they happen all the time. And your back office is filled with material there. But then you have these other talks that are unbelievably significant that really help you get this at the higher level. So I have the luxury of being able to stay on this sort of thing in the message. But I do want to say that Kevin O'Brien, he started his message today, showering praise upon all of you. And I would love to go and repeat all of that. It would just take too much time. But nobody did that for him. Everybody says kind things about Kevin. But from the perspective that I can provide as the executive chairman, I'm about to talk about the greatest performers out there, people who have the highest virtue. And I will tell you, of anybody that I've ever worked with before, Kevin O'Brien is the person that epitomizes that beyond anyone else. And Kevin, I just want to thank you for everything that you're doing here. And he knows how much I just prefer ripping on him too. So he knows that that is, while true, sacrificial. It's just great having the friendship we do. Okay, so let's dive in. There are thought patterns that we need to go through in order to actually have success. So we hear all sorts of things. You need to have a positive attitude or not. No, it's not a positive attitude. It's resolve. You need to not be afraid. You need to, as Lorna said, you need to make decisions. You have to have the right choices, all these different things. But there are so many people that do some of that and they still don't have the success. Have you ever been there before? You can imagine if you showed somebody how to bake a cake and then it didn't turn out and you said, well, what happened? And they said, well, I did exactly what you said. Exactly what you said. I got the pan out. I preheated the oven. I just, I took the eggs out and I dropped them in. I put it in. I baked it for the right amount of time. Then I got it out. And then I took the sugar and the flour and I tried. You'd be like, wait, what? I covered every single thing on the instructions. Yeah, but not in the right order and not the right way. So we can literally do certain things that create problems in our life, even though we're doing the right things, but because we're doing them in the wrong order. So there's a bit of a science behind this. Have you ever built anything where you build a table and it just doesn't, it's not standing right, okay? And it kind of wobbles, but then you're like, oh, it's missing this part. And you put that part in this, it's really stable, but just over here, and you put something on it, but it'll still fall until you stabilize it here and here and here. All of these different parts alone don't work, but when they are together, they fortify this in the most incredible way. That's what these things do. The first one of them, and they're related, which is interesting because I'm going to get into the second one, which is decision-making. But before that, it's the willingness to live life as an adventure. This is the gateway. This is the doorway. This is the very thing that will allow you to open the doorway to success. It does not give you success, but it opens the doorway to success, and all of the rest will build on it. In fact, there are 12 thought patterns that highly successful people use, and I'm going to walk you through those thought patterns, all 12 of them kind of rapidly, and they build on top of each other. So if you skip some, it's like baking the cake too early before you mix it up. So how do we get into them? But they're also kind of interconnected in a way where you need to do a part of one to get to the next, and then it becomes entirely fortified. But why are we doing this? We're doing this because we want to reach our full potential. When we want to reach our full potential, we have to look at what does that look like in life? This is really what it looks like. When you're born, you can see at birth, you are born with potential, full potential. Potential means unused ability. That's an important part of this. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But you're born if you were to live a perfect life of decision-making and effort, those two things, you're making every right decision perfectly, and then you put the right amount of effort behind that decision. Like you could decide to work at BVM, but not put the effort in, right? So you need to do both of those. If you can do that perfectly from the moment you were born all through life, you'd have this straight line that goes all the way up to your full potential, and that's what it looks like at your death. But most of us look like this graph right here. See, it starts off, and our parents are kind of in charge of this. We don't really have that self-agency at a younger age. You know, maybe your parents didn't really have what it takes to raise you in a way that helps you reach your full potential in certain ways. Maybe there were resources, or maybe they just went through their own trauma in life. They had their own pains, and so they weren't entirely able to do that. So usually we're coming off the mark a little bit slow. Now we get to be about 18 years old, and it starts to act kind of funny. You know, and when you're at this point, you might go to university or college, and you start working a little bit harder, and you're improving yourself, but you kind of go up and down a little bit. And then people hit this midlife sort of thing, and a lot of times at this point, life is way more disappointing for them than they thought it would be at this point. I had all my dreams, I had all my aspirations. In fact, if you see this other insight on this graph, you'll see that when somebody says you have potential and you're young, it's like, oh, thank you. But unused ability is the definition. So at some point, that turns from a compliment to an insult. And it's usually right about here, and you become aware of it. So now, you have to grapple with the pain. And you grapple with the pain maybe with some additional vices, and you kind of become a worse version of yourself. And then you go back and forth here, and maybe something just like need or necessity and age calms you down, and you get to a little bit a better level, but then you just stop. And you just go like that. There are some people, I remember my dad came home from work one time. I was 20, I think. He didn't say much, but when he did say something, you should listen. And he had a great wit about him too, but he never complained. But this day he came home, and man, he was just filled with like energy from work. Somebody there had bothered him. And he goes, you know what? He goes, you're going to wake up someday and you're going to be 40. And I was like, yeah, okay, where is this going? Because he just never talked to me like this. And he goes, and when you're 40, you could either live the same year over and over from age 20 to 40 and be a 20-year-old in a 40-year-old body, or you could gain wisdom now and have the wisdom of a 40-year-old by the time you're 25. That's going to be your choice. And he walked away, and I was like, okay, I'm on that. I was just watching the game and eating my pizza, but all right, wisdom, So this is what we have. Now, there is good news. And the good news is that you can actually, no matter where you are, aim toward the top. You can try to make up for lost time. And the way you can make up for lost time is by knowing the tools, understanding how to actually get there to that highest level of great potential. And it's a fight, but you have to go through it. I would actually invite you to track where you went through your life like this, to actually put your bar of life experience on there so that you can see, well, what was it in my life that stopped me or slowed me down? And how can I make a change? And how can I go to the next level? So you just understand what you're going after here. But the next thing is actually kind of related to this. So we talk about living a life of adventure. What does it mean to live a life of adventure? We're going to hold off on the next one until just a minute. You were actually formed in your younger days by older people or circumstances that helped you understand whether or not you were going to accept a life of adventure or not. At some point, we come to this awareness where it's now our decision, though, isn't it? Where it's like, I realize that I was taught this, but now I get out in the world and I see that this is really more like that. And I had no real control over it because, see, this is where empathy comes in. If you were taught everything I was taught, the way that I was taught it, and had the life experiences that I had exactly the same way, and I had the same for you, I would likely think what you think, and you would likely think what I think. Likely, not absolutely, likely. So when we look at it that way, we start to say, well, I need particular self-agency. I need to make some changes in my own way to perceive things so that I can actually make some decisions on my own and I can reshape where I'm going. But see, if you were young and you, for example, got $100 for your birthday and your parents said, this is what you're going to do with the money. Okay? And they made you do something with the money. They took an opportunity from you. It would have been better for them to suggest what to do, watch you waste it on candy, get sick when your brother actually makes a better investment and you see that investment prosper, whatever the investment is to a young kid. A remote control car that didn't break and make him sick like the candy, right? It's this sort of thing that allows for that. And I really want to be very particularly careful not to pick on anyone in particular here if you've done this with your own children. But this has gotten so bad now. And I look at this clinically. I look at this like historically, not really judgmentally, okay? Because our society has changed in so many different ways. I mean, you think about fear in our world now, every little thing that happens negatively is in your face instantaneously, so you constantly see it, and so you are afraid. Like I said, if you tried to train for the Ironman competition in Hawaii by watching shark attack videos, you would never get in the water, okay? So it's in your face. So parents now feel the very grave need to protect their children in ways that they never actually did. We just didn't know what was going on when we were growing up. Now we see it all, and so we're worried about it. But that has not served children well. It comes from a good place, that I would admit. But that also includes this overspoken to idea of give the kid a trophy for losing a race. I remember one time my neighbor kid, like I was very average growing up. I mean, I was actually so bad at baseball, I won the Spirit Award. Okay? I mean, it's hard to be worse than that. While my brothers were like 4.0s and, great athletes, that's where I was. So I remember though, one of the neighbor kids, we all got together and we'd always recruit each other to play games, and we were just going to run a race. We all run the race, and I came in mid-ground, all the other kids were wherever, my brothers were faster. But this one kid, just, he got shellacked by us. His mom comes out and demands that we let him win. And I'm like 8, and my brain is just going, rah, rah, rah. I did not get it. I was like, I know I looked at her with like this look that if a kid looked at me with, I would be like, what's your problem, kid? I had that look because it immediately said to me, why? To what end? I mean, I felt like Aristotle next to this mother. Like this kid is going to know, and he is going to be given a lie, a mockery. It cannot possibly help him. Why would we do that? Now we know why the mom wants to do it, but it's not good. Then what happens now is there's this horrible app, Life 360. And I don't mind saying its name. This is damaging men and women like you wouldn't believe. I did say this recently on one of the calls, but it takes away the adventure. If your parents know where you go within 3 feet and you're 24 years old and what you spend and tell you to go to bed and that you just sped on the road, oh my gosh, you are creating a person who will not have courage. They will have no adventure in them. None. If Einstein would have been raised that way, we'd have no theory of relativity. If Edison would have been raised that way, we'd be talking in the dark. If Columbus would have been raised that way, he'd still be in his bathtub, fake rowing. Okay? If you really want to go after something great, you have to go after it. And you know what? Here's the thing. When you're going to make that decision to open the door to adventure, you have to say, I'm willing to get hurt. I'm willing to lose. I'm willing to feel pain. I'm willing to be embarrassed. All that's okay. I'm willing to have loss. That's how you open up the door to adventure. Is just to say, I am willing to have these things happen in my life. And then after you do that, you build on it. And you build on it by the 4 cardinal virtues, which I talk about all the time, but I can't talk about them enough. So I literally am a little bit of a nerd in that I love to study human performance. What made that person great? Why is that athlete great? Why did that person accomplish that and that person not accomplish that? What was that? By the way, driving is one of the greatest ways to learn this. I always have to look. You're there in the fast lane. There's a car blocking traffic in the fast lane next to the other car. You can't pass. And you're like, what possibly is happening in their brain? It's not complimentary. None of it is complimentary. I mean, like, we know that's happening for a lot of them. It's like, I have nothing in the world that anyone wants except for this position. I'm in first place right now. I am number 1, and when I'm off the highway, I go back to my miserable life of non-power, no merit, and I have to give this up. So I, in fact, will hang on as long as I can. Oh, and then there's a different version of person. There's this person. I'm going fast enough. I mean, the speed limit says this. Why should you be in such a hurry? I will determine whether or not it's right or wrong for you to be in a hurry. This is my decision. Are you kidding me? And then there's this couple. It's like, to get past this mentally, I just have to give myself positive talk. I told Miranda, who's like peace. She is like peace. She is like, seriously, it's like waking up and having a big Starbucks with an extra pump of peace in it every morning when I live with her. And so she does the imitation of me when I drive, but it's not flattering. It isn't. But it's hilarious because she's so peaceful, so and she does, it's funny. So, but I give myself this positive talk. I'm like, well, they're just happy people on the highway. They're happy to go slow in the fast lane. They're happy to cut you off. They're happy to do all these things. They're happy to be on their cell phone and at the green light and not go, But there's this person that's going, honey, isn't this beautiful? There's no traffic today. There's not a car in sight. And 2 miles behind them, everyone's backed up. Science still does not know why these people eventually do speed up or slow down or move over. They don't. But when they do, and you drive by them, don't you have to look? You gotta know. What, in fact, do they look like? Okay? So we have this kind of complex nature about us that says, I want to be an adventure, but I'm going to judge others. I have to make decisions, but I don't know how to make them. My emotions get in the way, and we have to wrestle all this down. And this list helps you wrestle it down. And in studying human nature, this is the thing that it comes to. That first thing is adventure. If I just said to you, the key to success is, what is the key to success? Doing what you don't feel like doing. That's on the list. But it's not even first. The first thing is the willingness to live life as an adventure. The second thing is master decision-making. Everyone knows this. The sum of your failure or success at the end of your life will be determined by the weight of the good versus bad decisions you make, which is really, you should look at this more. This is the decision impact growth chart. When you make a good decision, you move to the right. When you make a bad decision, you move to the left. When you move to the left, you have a bunch of repair damage to do, don't you? Well, don't ask him. He's probably going to mess that up again. Well, there's no judgment there. That's harder to overcome, isn't it? But when you move to the right and you keep moving to the right, you build goodwill. I remember my kids, they'd make a bad decision when they were little, and I would say, listen, there's a fork in the road. You could have decided good or bad. You just decided bad. But the thing is, your legs are only this far apart. So you can go right back to good quickly. And that's why you're getting this little lecture from me, along with a little bit of a discipline which prevents you from wanting to make that mistake again. But if you do that again, you're like going like this. Like, how long can you do that before you're well beyond the splits and you need to now get a canoe okay, or a car, or an airplane to close the gap between the two. It's very hard to come from this side to here. You shouldn't lose hope, by the way. Now, what's interesting is if we could actually take and overlay this to the potential chart, you will see that this pathway to the left is why you went down constantly as opposed to up. And the good choices are the ones that drive you up when you want to live your life of potential. So what happens on the good side, though, is that you build the virtues or the muscles of the will and the intellect. So because of that, when you make bad decisions, they're usually smaller bad decisions. Now, we all know somebody that had this life going along and they have a huge catastrophic big mistake that they make and it ruins everything for them. Those stories are out there. But if you look closer at those stories, they're actually quite rare. Usually the person had the image of making good decisions, but they've been making all sorts of bad decisions under the current, and they were just kind of able to like mislead a bunch of people, and it just collapsed for them. But you just want to keep this in mind. The weight of these things is as they go, and that gets you into decision making. You know, if you're going to make great decisions, you have to be prudent. Prudence is the mastery of decision making. There are 3 different steps to it. We've talked about them before, and I don't have time to get in all these, but there's things that get in the way of great decision making. And one of the things that gets in the way of great decision making, we know what it is. It reminds me of my uncle. My uncle is amazing. You all have somebody in your life you're like, this person's like a cartoon, right? They're like characters, like, so they're like a living meme. He worked for the Braves, Milwaukee Braves, before they were the Atlanta Braves, and then for the Brewers, with all the iconic people. I actually have the 1956 hat from Bobby Thompson when the Braves played the New York in the World Series. Anyway, so he was engaged to my aunt. My aunt was a beautiful woman, and my grandfather had met all the Brewers, because it was the Brewers at this time, and the Braves, and he wanted to meet some of the New York Yankees when they were in town. So my uncle says, you have to sit right here, Vince. Don't move. High security. It's the World Series, and I'm not supposed to bring you in here, but let me go rustle up some of these guys, and you just don't talk to anyone until I come back. Well, right above that was the cutout, the newspaper announcement of the engagement of my uncle to my aunt. So at this time, Mickey Mantle walks in. He sees the picture. He sees my uncle walk in from another door. He sees my uncle. He doesn't know who my grandfather is. And he says this. He said, hey, Tommy, tell you what, she looks pretty hot. You give me some of that while I'm in town, and you can have some of the old lady when we're back in New York. My uncle said, I never said anything smoother in my life. I said, I can't give you what I'm not getting, and how'd you like to meet her dad? He was so mortified. He sat down and he talked to my grandfather for like 10 minutes. So this uncle is 94 now, and he lives near me, and he likes to get out there and swing the golf clubs every once in a while still. So he calls me, and he says, you want to go swing the golf clubs? Now, he's always going to pick you up at 94, okay? So he picks me up, and he wants to stop at McDonald's and get a double cheeseburger for some energy before we go. So we go through, and there's 3 lines. There's the line where you order, then you pay, and then you pick up your food. So he is in the line to order, and there is a woman behind him just blaring on the horn, get it moving, just every intense thing. And I'm looking at my uncle going, I know he's got some spunk. How's he going to handle this? And he's just like calm, doesn't say anything. So I'm like, maybe you can't hear it. I'm not going to say anything. We get up to pay, and he says this. He hears her order coming through, and he says, and I'd like to pay for the lady behind me. And I'm thinking, that is awesome. You know, like, what a great story I can bring back to BVM. So now the lady discovers that he paid. And she's beeping, thank you. And she just has a complete conversion. She just thinks my uncle is the greatest man ever. And she's probably feeling quite guilty because of how she behaves. We get up to where they receive the food. My uncle gives them both receipts, takes their food, and drives away. The first story about Mickey Mantle is true. The second one is not. But the reason, and God rest his soul, he passed away years ago. But the reason I tell the story is because it's complex, isn't it, in human nature? It's complex. Here we go, oh man, I can't believe her. And then we go, oh, what a good guy. And then we go, oh, you know what? She knows she made a mistake. That's good. And then we go, oh, did you really do that? That is so cool. Like something about us likes that. So it's filled with justice and decision-making and temperance and fortitude. It kind of fills all of those cardinal virtues together. Cardinal virtues are interesting because you cannot have the second one, which is justice, and that's the third decision. The first decision, and the reason they're not just thought patterns, they're decision patterns, is because a thought pattern is one that you don't have very much control over because you've let yourself habituate into vice. So like your thought pattern might be this. Oh, I want to watch TV, relax. Sit down and watch TV. Oh, I could use something to drink. Might as well be like a bottle of whiskey. Boom. The whole bottle. And then you have like this thought pattern, right? Whereas the decision is, man, whiskey would be great right now. Nope, not going to do it. I'll save that for Saturday night or whatever, But there's something that regulates it because it's a decision, not just a thought pattern, which is like uncontrolled. So the first one is I will live my life as an adventure. I will allow myself that pain. The second thing is I'm going to master decision-making. In order to master decision-making, you must desire what is good first. You cannot make a great decision if you don't desire what is good. So if you think about all of these things, and Lorna, by the way, where are you? Where are you? Right here. Okay. You absolutely, you said choice, decision, over and over and over again. And it was exactly this sort of thing. Now, those were on big things, and most people are just accept as a thought pattern. Like, I can't control this. Look at what has happened to me. I must feel this way. But to take in the most grave circumstance and to say, I will control what my thoughts are. Grace obviously played a role in that, but to say I'm going to do that is intense. Okay? I'm going to desire what is good here because I can't change it, but there's people around me that need me, and your strength provided strength for others, right? To go through that. So desire what is good, but then to know what is real, to not be deceived by yourself. And we deceive ourselves all the time. It's so easy to do. I remember knowing somebody who I said something like, and by the way, knowing them very, very, very well. So there's not like missing information. I have mentioned this before too, but I said something about, I'm sore or whatever for working out. And they go, well, I can't work out. I said, why? They said, because I'm allergic to it. And I started laughing because that's funny. And they looked at me like, no, I'm serious. And I was like, oh, you're serious? And they go, yeah, I'm literally allergic to it. And I said, well, what are your symptoms? Well, I breathe heavy. Like I sweat. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Everyone does that. Not like me. See, one of the reasons that we won't allow ourselves to see what is good is because we self-justify. And when we self-justify, one of the ways that we do it is we need to have, I'm going to give you a rapid fire 8 reasons that people can't see what is good. Okay? Or can't see what is true, what is real. That self-justification happens when we try to be exceptional. Well, you don't understand my story because what I'm going through is so exceptional. My pain is so amazing, so remarkable, okay, that I can't do anything. And it just operates as an excuse. My doctor, who was one of my best friends growing up, he's an amazing man, and he's my family physician, my personal physician, has been for many years. I have an additional one now, some of you know of, by the way, because of my new diet plan. But anyway, he has stage 4 brain cancer, and he was diagnosed in 2010. So 14 years ago. He's got 3 daughters. He still practices. He has to have batteries on his head, the magnets on his head and a battery pack back here. But he still practices medicine, and he works out and he's everything. Stage 4. He wasn't supposed to live for months, and he's 14 years while practicing medicine. I'm telling you, I go in there and he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing. Never mind. I'm fine. And that's what it feels like, because the perspective, like, you want to look at that guy where you see this battery pack that he has to have 20 hours a day or 24 hours a day. Yes, I think it's 20 hours a day. And you want to go in and tell him about your little ache and pain, and it provides a really unique perspective when we don't do that. What are some of these other excuses? Well, they're simple. One of them is self-justification. We talked about that. We've talked about that many times before. The next one is a false moral high ground. This is my favorite strategy of certain people. It doesn't work well with me, by the way. I'll tell you where it's unpleasant when somebody says it to me. And then I will tell you where it's excruciating when they say it to me. And I don't mean for me. Dave, I'd be the number one performer here, but I'm a family guy. Okay. Let me just unpack this for you. You have indicted all top performers as not good family people. Would you like to go up to all of them and say, I noticed that you sacrificed your family for this honor? Or would you like me to tell you? Or does everybody know it about them? Because I find that pretty insulting. Now, while we all know people have been top performers in the world, okay, that have neglected their families, by and large, people who are serious about work are serious about home. Okay, and they carry those virtues into what they're doing. And so that doesn't work for me. But they pit two good things against it. I am above the top performer. Because I'm so good. Now, if I went up to that dude's wife and I said, tell me what kind of family guy is, total lazy. Not only that, we want to take a vacation. He won't work hard enough to pay for one. And I want a new dress. Could you tell him about that? Okay. That's the same thing that happens. Pitting two good things against each other that make no sense. The other one, by the way, is when people are in the nonprofits. I've been in a lot of religious nonprofits and say, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for Jesus. I'm like, don't boy, stop. You use being late for your volunteer job and doing sloppy work. And the excuse that you use is that you're using the entire grand principle of what we're doing as your motivation, and you can't be on time? You're a volunteer, right? Yeah, you're fired. I don't really fire them that fast, but my goodness. Self-deceit is no good in life. It makes us all look silly when we say it too, doesn't it? Right? Okay. Intellectual doubting and quitting. I'm not smart enough. There's a past label in your life that's not true about you. Somebody that wasn't very good. By the way, do you ever do this after you drive? Well, even not so much that. Have you ever talked to somebody and when you get done talking, you go, they can legally drive? Like, we had a very hard time with that basic decision, and I saw them leave with keys. Wow, that's scary to think that, everybody they pass on the road's life is in their hands. Okay, now some people might have thought about us, by the way. Okay, because we can all be the person in the fast lane. You know that, right? You're like just not paying attention. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I was him. Oh boy. You're like, I know they got to look at me. They're going to look. Okay. Physical doubting. I'm not strong enough. It's not true. I don't like to share my own individual stories very often, but this one's so fantastic. And I might mention it before, but I was a fighter for a lot of years. So like everything in me has been just pounded up. I was supposed to get my knees replaced. And I watched this video on knees over toes. Have you ever seen this guy? It's like a natural way to heal your knees. I was like, I got to do something, because I ended up having a really bad shoulder surgery one time. And I just have a very bad taste in my mouth, even though I've had many surgeries for having surgery again. I healed my knees. I was able to play pickleball for about 20 minutes with 2 braces on. And then I could barely walk for 4 days before I'd do it again if I wanted to. Now, my knees have no pain at all. But the worst part was my hip and my shoulder, where my ortho said, you have the shoulder of an 85-year-old when he did a scan. And I said, well, when you say that, you mean like metaphorically? And he goes, no, like if an 85-year-old in here, your shoulder is worse. And he said, but that doesn't bother me. What bothers me is your hip is like 5 years older than your shoulder. Well, I knew they both hurt, but I didn't know how bad that was. So every day I'm experiencing a 3 or 4 in pain from my hip all day long, which is just enough to be distracted and grimace. By the night, it was an 8 every single night. Like, gosh, unbelievable pain. I couldn't touch my foot. I was done doing anything that involved like, running or jumping or anything like that at all. And I'm in the surgeon's office discussing when to schedule a hip replacement. Okay, demoralizing for a 54-year-old. I'm 55 now, but I was like, oh my gosh. And I said, there's got to be something I can do. I said, is there anything that I can do? Like, could I rehab this? Because my knees had gone pretty well, but I wasn't testing as much. And he goes, if you rehab it, you can't, or if you want to work out hard, you can't hurt it, but it will hurt like you wouldn't believe. And I was like, okay, well, I got to try something. I did a lot of things. I'm not going to go into everything that I did, but I did a lot of things. I'm sprinting now. I have 0 pain in my hip. None at all. And by the way, thank you. But the whole point of the story is I didn't believe for a long time. I thought I'd have to have the surgery. And I was like, there's got to be something else. And I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't know. I mean, if you look at the thing, it's like all beaten up, but you can do things. Now, the reason I'm telling this story is because there are so many people that have a minor knee injury or an ankle thing, and they just cash in their chips. See, for me, when I had an injury, it affected all of my life. It was like, well, can't really work out now, so might as well eat what I want. Like, that makes no logical sense at all. It literally is like, since I'm going to die from this, I might as well kill myself faster from this. It just doesn't make any sense. But it's one of those things where when we doubt ourselves physically, we doubt ourselves mentally as well, too. And we have to get past that. Next one is we want the easy road. This is connected. We're on decision making, right? We're on prudence, but it's connected to adventure. Because if you value comfort more than you value adventure, you'll never leave your house. You'll just sit there. And you know what you'll do is you become more uncomfortable every day until you seek greater means of comfort, not greater means of adventure. And then you'll die. That's the story. Okay? BVM people, you're just not like that. This is not a group like that. But we know people like that. And we also know we can all be like that. Every one of us is capable of having that worst day. The next one is envy. There are 7 capital sins. You know this, right? Envy is the only one that theologians say is intellectually stupid. Because, in like pride, you know what you get. In gluttony, you know what you get. In anger, you know what you get. Revenge, you know what you get in lust. But envy is the only one where you don't get anything. You literally feel immediately worse. There's no payoff in envy. The happiest day in many people's life is the day they hear the worst news of their friends and family. And that is just how they live. Your Bob got a new car, Beamer. Only bad people drive those. Not good people like me. Well, then why do you keep talking about his BMW? Like, why do you not stop ever talking about Bob's BMW? Okay? That's what people do. We fall into these traps, and it's bad. Imagining false outcomes. How many of you do that? You imagine a false outcome? I am not a fan of solopreneurs. I like the people. I find them noble. Like the character, good. Okay, to be clear, on the person, I like them a lot. Love them, in fact. I'm not a fan of the choice they made. Because why do most people become a solopreneur? Because they want to stop working for the man. So they want to go on there. They want to do their own thing. And now they're working 7 days a week, doing everything. They're the janitor, the salesperson, the marketing person, the accountant. They're everything. By the way, on day 1 in BVM, you're never that. You've got a designer, you've got a content coordinator, you got all this working for you. You're like a big publisher. Like, I got a staff. Yeah, that dude up on stage, he works for me. You know, that's what's happening. Okay. So you never fall into that. But people fall into solopreneur. And once they start to realize they can expand something, they can have more. But one of the reasons that they do, they get stuck in it and they don't hire somebody, they don't advance, they don't go further, is because the number one job of entrepreneurs is to worry. So they wake up and they worry. And then they hit their alarm, snooze, worry a little bit more. Now their spouse or significant other goes to work. They go, okay, yep, I'm getting going. And they sit at home and they worry. And they think about all the bad things could happen if they don't make the sale. It's like Ron said, I don't go needing to make the sale. I'm going out and I'm doing my thing the right way. And they worry right up until about noon. Then now they're going to do some real work. So they get their computer out and they prospect on Facebook. Okay. And they think of a new logo. Maybe it's time to buy a new office chair. That would be productive. So they look at maybe that. New cell phone would be better. I would be more productive if I had a better cell phone. One's not making calls right now. I'm looking right at it and it's not even dialing. Okay. And so they get frustrated by this sort of thing. And now it's like, 3:00 and their spouse calls to see how the day is going. And I can't talk, I'm working. I have this like luxury job like you where you can just like call randomly at 3:00 to see how things are going. Okay. Now about 5:00 when their spouse is going to come home, they actually start doing real work. Real work. So when their spouse comes home, they're like, I got to keep going. So they can self-sacrifice. See how hard I work? I have to work all evening now. And they self-punish. Yeah, I know it's funny because you've done it. You may not have gone all the way to where some of them are like picturing their house being foreclosed on and they've got that one stick with the hobo sack on the end and their kids coming along with dirty faces. Some of them are picturing that. You might not have gone that far. But we all think these things at times and it rents space in our mind because we have a false outcome. We have to project the outcomes we want in order to get there. Okay. So the next part of this is to get through these 12 is we go from willingness to live life in an adventure to making great decisions, acting on those decisions, and then being fair. How many people have you ever met that you didn't want to be around or didn't like because you didn't like their sense of fairness? They had no sense of fairness. It's amazing how you'll talk to people and you'll go, that you thought was fair. Like, what justice system are you in? To each their due portion, and that was crazy. Do you know why it was crazy? Because if you're going to be just, you have to live a life of adventure. Because justice means loss very often, doesn't it? I don't like that person, but I owe them something. Okay? So I'm going to have to lose my pride. I'm going to humble myself to give them what is due to them, as opposed to just grinding it out because I don't like them. That sort of thing. There's almost always risk involved in justice. Justice includes, if you are like literally a judge, making a justice decision that is going to be unpopular with the masses because it's right and good. The only way you can be just is to live life at an adventure and then desire what is good, know what is real, and pursue what is good, which is the definition of prudence, the mastery of decision-making. Can you imagine sitting in front of a judge that's not willing to live life in an adventure? So whatever is a popular decision, they're just going to make it because they don't want to be judged themselves. They don't desire what is good. I don't care about this peon sitting here who's looking for justice. I don't care if they go to jail or they get this sentence or penalty. Okay? I don't know what is real. I'm not even paying attention to the case because real doesn't matter here. And I'm not going to pursue what is good because I've made up my mind. I will not live life as an adventure, which means that I'm going to just dole out whatever form of justice makes me feel good. This is why people can't do it. By the way, where does this show up? You know where it shows up? It shows up in simple things like I should get my 3 S's. By the way, I'm not putting this on you as human beings. I understand what it's like. You have your good day, you have your bad day. Nobody looks at any one of our publishers and go, oh, it's a 1 yes day. Not just. We're not doing it. Okay, that is not happening here. But there's a certain amount of injustice that takes place when you commit to something and you don't follow through on it, isn't there? Like, there's somebody who would love to be the publisher of your magazine in your town. You know, we do this all the time. We go, oh, you wouldn't want that role? You wouldn't want the responsibility? Give it to me. Okay. Well, if you have it, you're hogging it. And there's a bit of injustice done when you don't fulfill the opportunity you have. Again, you can really like over guilt people with a talk like that. Don't go there. But there's a certain reasonability about that, isn't there? I would look at it like speeding. You know, if you took what I said literally, it would be like me saying, it's 25. You can't go over 25 or you're a bad person. We all know that 25 means more like, 45 or 50 if nobody's looking. So there's some flexibility in the rule. All right. Like I said, that'll bring me back to self-justification on number whatever. All right, the next one is fortitude. Fortitude is the key to success. It's doing what you don't feel like doing. We talk about that a lot, but it's the thing that really matters. It pushes the needle. So here's your daily review. At the end of the day, you ask yourself, did I do everything I felt like doing? Or did I not? And there are certain things that get in the way of that. I remember my son was 5. Now he's full grown and married. But he was 5 years old and he was afraid. And his bedroom was kind of up in the corner area. And so I was going to go and I was going to give him this little motivational talk to make him not afraid. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to, tell him that he has an angel that will protect him. And I wanted to draw a comparison of the power of an angel to a man. So I was going to pick the strongest man he knows in his life, me, as the example. And so I say to him, hey, Mikey, I know you're afraid, but you know how I would always protect you? And he goes, mm-hmm. He's 5. I'm supposed to be his hero. And he just, And I go, I was so curious. I go, And I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, you're strong, but you're not strong, and you don't have a sword or nothing. I'm like, okay, wow, what 5-year-old doesn't see their dad as a hero? He's like, you're not strong. You're strong, not strong. You don't have a sword. You're unarmed there in life. So we have like a perception of ourselves. And when that perception of us is actually different to somebody else, we have a hard time with that, don't we? Have you ever had somebody describe you to you and you're like, I'm not like that. And we're defending ourselves, but everyone in the room is going, you are just like that. You're like, no, I'm not like that. And they're like, the thing you're doing going, no, you're not like that. That's the thing we're saying you're like. Okay. You're like literally proving it right now. Have you ever taken a temperament test? Like a personality test? When people take those tests, their reaction to them is very funny. They're like, wow, I aced it. I literally have the perfect temperament. What was yours? Oh, I'm a caloric melancholic. You failed the temperament test? And you tell people that? There is no passing or failing. We all have these differences about us. And these differences about us will get in the way of our ability to stay at things that we need to do when we don't feel like doing them if we are constantly thinking about how people judge us. This is an actually interesting thing. You'd say, well, why are you talking about this in fortitude, the thing that is like stick-to-itiveness, it's drive, it's courage? Why would that be the thing? Because I have rarely ever seen something weaken people more than what they think of what others think of them. It is unbelievably crippling when people do that. I had somebody tell me the other day, hey, I talked to somebody who interacted with you. There's a work interaction, and they seem to kind of, drive over you a bit in their conversation. And I noticed that you literally said nothing negative about this person. I was a little bit taken back. And he said, are you worried that this person is saying this? I said, not at all. I have no concerns about it. I know the entire history of the person, and I know exactly what took place there. And I have no desire to edit what they say or I will give it no thought. I will go home tonight and crack open a Baker's 7 and have it maybe neat or with a big rock, I don't know, and not think of it. If you live your life in a way where you're making decisions like that, that's easy to do. But if you know you caused an injustice and there's truth in it, it gets super hard. Very hard to do. And so that's why we need to live this particular way, this way that says, I don't really care what anybody says because I'm going to do the right thing. Now, that's hard to do if you've made some bad decisions, isn't it? If you've made bad decisions and people can legitimately say bad things about you. And by the way, would anybody in this room be able to raise their hand and say, I have never made bad decisions that anyone could speak poorly of me up? Is there a single person here who could do that? There's not one of us, which means that we don't all have the ability to go, I just don't care because I never acted bad. Now, if you're in the mode of acting good and you say, I just don't care because of that, it's easier, isn't it? Because you know the truth. Some ways it actually hurts even more when it's a lie and it's a creative lie. But that's not the topic we're on here. But we all know we've done things in the past. I oftentimes will help coach men who have made mistakes in their life to get over them. And I just tell them two things, okay? Just two things. Be good, act good. That's it. That's all you can do. All the past is gone. Be good, act good. On that decision chart, you will come all the way over here eventually. And even though it's going to take a while to get over there, people are going to see that bridge being built. And that bridge is going to be built of virtue and good decisions and good moral behaviors. And once you get over here, that's all going to be erased. All going to be gone. And they're going to say, this person has changed. And then you be careful to say that way. But that's what we have to do in order to get there. The next decision that we have is temperance. Oh my goodness, don't you see this? Hey, I live my life as an adventure. I'm making great decisions. At least I believe I am, right? I'm fair. I'm working through it. I have fortitude. But it is so nice out today. It's so nice out today that I can make my calls tomorrow. The golf clubs, they're calling your name. They can't resist temptation. Now, generally speaking, if a person has these first things, temperance is pretty easy to capture because you've built so much virtue behind it. But you will see people miss that mark. The next one is goodness. Have you ever gone to a meeting and said that was a bad meeting? Have you ever gone to a meeting and said that was a good meeting? What makes a bad meeting and a good meeting a good meeting? There are many things, but there's one simple one. If the meeting is to balance the budget and you don't balance the budget, is it a good meeting? It's bad. If you balance the budget, is it a good meeting? It is good. You know what goodness is? Goodness is something that is created reaching the purpose of why it was created. That's what goodness is. Very simple. It's why it was created. Okay? Hey, that's not what that's for. How many parents have said that before? Get your feet off the couch. Okay? And why is that not good? Because it wasn't made for that. Put them on the footstool. Now that's good because it's made for that. Okay? So goodness is just reaching the manifestation of the thing that you designed. Okay? Are you a creator in BVM? What are you creating in BVM? A magazine. Opportunity. Are you fulfilling its purpose? If you are, it's good. If you're not, it's bad. It's that simple. Nobody needs to tell you. You already know, don't you? There's not a single person who says, am I doing a good job? You don't have to ask me. You all know the answer to that question. However, could a good meeting be better? It could be, but it's interesting though, because if you have a thimble filled with water or a glass filled with water, they're both full, right? They have maxed out their goodness. They're both full, but you can make them better in a different way. You could make it bigger, but usually what we do is we make it more beautiful. So these things are what we call transcendental desires. We all have them. The greatest companies on planet Earth always use transcendental desires to build their culture, even if they don't know they're doing it. Has anyone ever said, enough of that goodness, I want some badness now? I desire, like nothing else, badness. I've had enough goodness, by the way. That's plenty. No one. There is a desire for more goodness. When we have goodness, we want more of it. We never stop desiring what is good, ever. How about beauty? Enough of that beauty. Give me some ugliness now. I have had all I can with beauty. Even when it comes to yourself, how do I look? I could look better. Just there's the thing that always bothered me, about anything. That car is beautiful. I could make a better one. I could build a better car. This is the most beautiful home I've ever lived in. I could be in a more beautiful home. Everything. There is no limit to beauty. And beauty is how we make things better. How was the meeting, Bob? It was good. Did you make it better? Yeah. How? Yeah. Could have flowed better. Beautiful, isn't it? The agenda could have been better. Beautiful. Speakers could have been a little bit tighter on that. Beautiful. Right? It's more beautiful. So these are decisions that we make. You have to make a decision to say, I will do good work. Is 2 yeses good? In one day. Because it's incomplete. 2 yeses will never be good. Will 2 yeses be okay? Will it be partially good? By the way, anybody that answered 2 knows that you can make so much killer money on just 2 yeses. I get it, by the way. Like I get it. Like if you were to look at everybody else and not BVMers and go, is 2 good? We'd all go, yes, Dave, it's good. Come on, don't be silly. I'm being a little semantical on purpose. But 3 is good because you can all do 3. Everyone here can do 3. You can get 3, and that's completing it. That's the completed purpose. Okay? Is 3. And every one of you were brought into the organization with that in mind of 3. Now, again, it's a hyper-forgiving organization. And if you found a way to sell $1 million+ a year with 1 yes, no one's going to question the 3 yeses. This is not something like we don't want 3 yeses more than great outcomes, but you don't get great outcomes without the yeses. So we know they're tied together. And that's an important thing to do. But that's an important thing to keep in mind. So it's desire. I will do a good job today. Okay? And I'm going to make it beautiful. I'm just going to make it beautiful. You can have a functional kitchen, can't you? But then you can have a beautiful kitchen. You can have a functional bedroom. You can have a functional bedroom and bathroom. It'll look like a jail cell. Okay? Or you can have a beautiful one and it looks totally different. And one raises your heart, doesn't it? When we see good things, we go, oh my gosh, that was great. It was so good. You see a great play on TV for a game, you go, that was a thing of beauty. You see a great actor, you say that was amazing. Okay, you see the beauty in it. Goodness, truth, beauty, or goodness and beauty and truth. Truth is the next one. This is a transcendental desire. We all desire the truth. But we can warp ourselves to the point where we'd rather have somebody lie to us than tell us the truth. When that happens, you're very sick. Okay? I know we see this, by the way, it happens in interviews, job interviews from the start with companies that have poor cultures. Starts with a big macho person going, what's your 5-year plan? They have no 5-year plan themselves. Are you kidding me? 5-year plan? And then they're like judging, what's your 5-year plan? Oh, well, I noticed on year 3, are you kidding me? Like, I know, buddy, you don't have a 5-year plan, and you're judging my 5-year plan like Alex Trebek as though you know the answers. Oh no, what is Genghis Khan? Okay. You don't even know, but you're making this judgment. Okay. So it's super important for us to recognize that we shouldn't lie back and forth. The other one is, what's your biggest weakness? This is the most hilarious question in an interview ever asked. If your biggest weakness is that you get drunk every night, sleep it off till 1 o'clock in the afternoon, okay? You know what that sounds like in a job interview? Me? Oh, I'd say perfectionism. Yeah, probably, but I'm really getting over that. I'm perfectly getting over it. And overcommitment, I'm really committed and loyal. Those are my flaws. That's what it sounds like. Do you really think the person's going to believe you? I mean, are they really asking a question they expect an actual answer to? What's your biggest weakness? You know what? I drink every night and I watch pornography until 3 a.m. Nobody's going to say that in an interview. They're just not going to say that. They're going to talk about perfectionism and all the other things that they say. So you ask a question you know they're going to lie about. They lie. You know that they know you're lying and you both go, okay, good, perfectionism. That's great. What have you just done there? Well, we've established exactly what the corporate culture is. I will act bigger than you by asking you questions that are going to intimidate you. You will lie. I will accept the lie. And then I will repeat the process while you're in the duties of your responsibility. And you wonder why you have this bad culture. What a ridiculous thing. It doesn't work. So that's why we're raw about this. That's why BVM works so effectively, because I know you would all be this way. You are either in leadership or you're leading somebody. And I know that you have compassion, you have empathy. Empathy is one of the number one ways that you have all of these things that I'm talking about. I was just on the phone with somebody the other day, and it's hilarious how this happens. And I said, here's the problem. And I'll just give you this. Okay, so we had like tiny little bit of mold that was coming through, and we're in Florida. So if you have more than one air conditioning unit in your house and you open the door, there's this weird air pattern that can happen. And it's kind of a nothing thing. You can just scrape it off really easily, but you never want to mess with that. So we had to have mold people come in, and they said beforehand, you have to have the air conditioner people come out to make sure there's nothing malfunctioning in the air conditioners. So I called the air conditioning company like several times. No call back. It was ridiculous. And I even stopped one of the air conditioning trucks. That's the same company. I said, can you call these guys? I just need them to come out. They have to come out before the mold people, da-da-da-da. So now it's the day of. And the guy said, the air conditioning people come out yet? And I said, no, they haven't. I'm going to call them again now. So I call, and I said, let me just start by saying, I'm not very happy just in beginning the call, because I've been trying to get a hold of you for a long time, and I haven't gotten a call back, but I realize that you're not specifically the individual person who's done that. So I hold nothing against you personally, but just as a customer to your company right now, I'm kind of in the need of a little extra favor treatment. This company is here right now, and I literally need somebody to come out now. Like, they have to come out now, because if they, spend thousands of dollars cleaning up this mold and the air conditioning units aren't working, I'm going to have to pay that again. And if I just called you randomly today, that'd be no problem. But for weeks, you have not returned my phone call. And she says, okay, so you're calling no, she started with, well, we haven't been there since September of 2023. And I was like, okay, well, thank you for that information. I also stand 6 foot and I'm bald. We talk about anything else not relevant. I said, I didn't say that, of course. My internal comments are sometimes need to be regulated. I shouldn't tell you this. You're like, that guy's a jerk. He's a totally best version. What? So then I said, no, let me re-explain the situation, because I need somebody here today, and this is what I re-explained the whole thing. And she goes, oh, so you're calling to schedule your 6 month? Where you go? Let me see when we get you on the schedule. And I said, okay, we're going to reset. This is how I said it, and this is what I said. We're going to reset the conversation with your permission. And we do that. Yes. What I'm going to have you do right now is I'm going to have you be me. You have a problem with your home, and I need you to tell me how you will solve the problem with your home because of what is happening with it. And I want you to experience this like I am experiencing it, so you can get off whatever rote memory page you're on and onto the actual circumstance. She said, I'll have somebody there in 2 hours. And it was done. I'm telling you, one of the great keys to helping people who are bad at customer service is to flip empathy. And if you don't have empathy, you can't get anything done. See, one of the reasons I make the jokes about internal dialogue and external dialogue is because it's super important to be vulnerable about these sorts of things, because empathy isn't always just like wanting to enter into this circumstance with somebody else. Empathy is fighting against the worst version of you that might be judgmental or might be impatient, and entering into the other person's experience. On LinkedIn, I posted that empathy is one of the most powerful things that a leader can ever have for moving change and building a great culture. And I had some big executive from a worldwide international company who was such a coward, he didn't respond to me. He reposted mine with comments so that I couldn't see them, and then the whole thing bubbles back up, and it's on LinkedIn. And he said, this guy doesn't know anything about leadership. He's probably never led anything. And I normally don't pay attention to any social media. I have people that do all this for me. But this day I was about to write a couple of chapters in a book that I needed to get done. And I was like looking to get it kind of juiced up a little bit. So I was like, I'm going to engage this dude. And there was another guy with him too that said the same thing. Oh, if this guy had to close divisions or had to fire somebody, he would have no idea how empathy doesn't allow for that to happen. And I said, well, you're making a couple of common mistakes. But before I get into those mistakes, why don't we just start with this, and then we can dissect them. I want you to take my post, and then I want you to take your words, and I want you to put them in the HR department. And every time somebody comes in for an interview, ask them which company they'd rather work for. Okay? Well, you don't know because you've never been. And I said, listen, empathy doesn't prevent you from closing a division or firing somebody, but it does it from the perspective of the people you're doing that with. So it softens the landing, if possible, because you're treating people as human beings, not numbers or items that you move around. And if you have empathy, you have insight that you wouldn't normally have to maybe put this person in that spot or to make this change. Or with empathy, you're going to listen and you're going to find out that there's a couple of different things on your factory floor that could have changed because these people knew it and you wouldn't listen. And that change actually made it better. And you can produce something powerful and good. I'm sorry, but if this had been a street fight, I was just crushing this dude and his friend. And he ended up removing the post because I know that he was like, all right, I can't be shellacked like that on this post. And because it's such a powerful thing. Now you might say, did you have no empathy for him? I absolutely did. I set him straight, and that was empathy. Sometimes that's the way it works. The next one is radical self-accountability. I love this one, I think, the most. Because radical self-accountability turns into this switch. It just goes. It just goes. You might have heard me talk about everybody has a switch. Some of you will let your kitchen be dirty for a month. But then there's a switch that goes, I have to change something here. And you clean it and you feel great. Some of you can do it for 3 weeks. Some of you can do it for 2 weeks. Some of you can do it for a day. Some of you can do it from breakfast to dinner. Some of you can do it just for one meal. And some of you take one glass of water and you clean it up and polish everything. But we all have the switch, don't we? That's the same switch. Some people use it after one glass. Some people use that switch after 1 month, but it's the same switch. If you have the switch, you can flip the switch. And when you have radical self-accountability, you learn to flip the switch all the time. It is the thing that makes you say, I'm going to get up before my alarm or when my alarm goes off. I flip that switch. I'm on a path for greatness today. And then you make your bed. Not because it's not you're going to bring your clients in, look, my bed is made, I'm organized, by the ad. Okay? No, why do you make your bed? Because there is something that says, I'm on a path of accomplishment today. That I'm going to have everything in order. Because as Kevin always says so well, you cannot have peace without order, and you cannot have prosperity without peace. So we start the day in order. And if you have done that, you have set your path toward greatness on the day. But if you make that poor decision in that moment when your alarm goes off and you get out of bed to not do it, how does that day go for you? You look back on that day. How do you feel when your room is clean and tidy and in order? Doesn't it feel good? And by the way, it also feels good when you do it yourself. You know, like I could have maids everywhere in my house, but there's just something about like what that's like to set your day in motion and to have that order and to enter into that experience. The next one is reasonable life balance. This is huge. I'm not going to get into this too much, but if we don't have reasonable life balance, all this goes away. I'm making all these great decisions. I'm going to live life as an adventure. I'm fair. I'm honest. I want what's good, true, beautiful. I have radical self-accountability. And I think I'm going to golf all day again today. No, that throws the balance off. Or I think I'm just going to pay attention to only my work. Well, you pay attention. So there's the spinning plates. You have 6 spinning plates in your life, right? These are the priorities that top achievers have in their life. Giants, dragon slayers, people that conquer the world. If you neglect any one of these plates, family, finances, physical health, social contributions, your faith, spiritual life, these types of things, those plates that are wobbling will start to wobble more because you're not spinning them equally, and they'll fall and they'll crash. And now you have to glue them back together, buy a new one, and start spinning them. And the other ones start to fall too. So we have to pay attention to this. We can't take an interest and make it its own plate. We can only spin about 6 plates. There's more on that over further times, but pay attention to that. Are you the type of person that loves your finances so much that you neglect your health? Or you pretend to love your family so much that you don't work? That is a false one, by the way. It is impossible to love your family so much that you don't provide for them, okay? But those are the types of things that come up. The next one is magnanimity, and I'm just going to read this because this is when I think of Kevin O'Brien. Generous, to be magnanimous, is to be generous, forgiving, to not be subject to pettiness, no vindictiveness, to be high-minded, noble, kind, and charitable. That's a decision. And all of those qualities and traits cannot come first. I don't live a life of adventure, but I'm magnanimous. Sorry, I don't live a life of adventure, but I am drawn to what is good, true, and beautiful. And I act out on it. You know, that you can't do it. That's why the order of these things matters. And then the last one is what we all know. And our foundation of our entire organization is built upon it. And it's humility. Without humility, we can't get anything done. It's impossible. One of the reasons this organization works is because of who you choose to follow. I think it was at the last SLC I mentioned this, but there was this one guy that was hungry and he was walking his dog and he was with his friend and he wanted to get something to eat and they were in like a plaza. And this was years ago before, people brought their pets into restaurants as often as they do now. And he says to his friend, I'd like to eat. And his friend says, no problem. Let's just go into that restaurant right there. And he goes, well, we can't. We have our dogs. And the friend says, this is not a problem. Just watch what I do. And he puts on some sunglasses and he walks up and he goes, are you seriously going to do that? And he goes, yeah. He walks up and the host says, can I help you? And he says, yes, I'd like to have a table. And he says, well, you can't bring your dog in here. And he said, well, it's, of course, my seeing eye dog. And he says, a Doberman? And they said, well, yeah, they're using Dobermans now. So he goes and sits down. Now, the other guy has a Chihuahua. And he's like, you got to be kidding me. So he's like, all right. He puts the sunglasses on. He walks up and the host says, can I help you? And he goes, I'd like a table. And he says, well, you can't come in here with your dog. And he goes, well, as you can tell, it's a seeing eye dog. And the host says, it's a Chihuahua. And he goes, what? They gave me a Chihuahua? So what makes BVM work is that while there's a lot of organizations where the blind leads the blind, your leadership doesn't do that here. Neither you are blind or they are blind. More importantly, neither you or neither they are self-deceived. And when you have humility, and you have it, by the way, I will tell you, you all have humility. And you might say, because of your humility, you need to work on it more. And that may be true. It certainly is for me. But you do have humility. Know it, recognize it, and build on it. Because that, of all the things we talked about, completes everything and sets you right back into a recycling of each one of these 12 decisions. You're the only person on planet Earth that can use your own potential. You're the only person on planet Earth that can use your own ability. That's an incredible responsibility, and that's your responsibility. Thank you.